So again, good day everyone. Now let's proceed to the summary of Indaraptra and Sulaiman. Long before Kabungsuan came to Mindanao, the entire island was covered with water. The lowland disappeared, nothing could be seen but mountains. The people to escape death, went to live on the mountainsides. Here, the inhabitants built their homes and cultivated the highlands. The peace and prosperity of these highland dwellers, however, were short lived. There appeared in the land one day some horrible man eating monsters. One of these monsters hunted the hillsides of Kabalalan, eating men and other animals it could reach. It was called Kurita. It lived partly on land and partly on sea. The second monster was called P-A-H, Pa. It was a winged creature with razor-edged claws. Its feet were covered with steel, hard scales. Whenever these monsters flew, its wings covered the sun and produced darkness to midnight. It hunted the region east of Mindanao. It had its abode on top of Mount Bita. The third was a huge man-like monster called Tarabusao. It inhabited the mountain of Mututum and plugged the neighboring territory. The fourth was also a dreaded bird which had seven heads. It lived in Mount Gorayu and hunted the adjacent territory. The people were so scared that they left their farms and homes and went into hiding. Soon famine crept into the land. This was followed by pestilence. Many people died from starvation and disease. When the news about this awful devastation reached the nearby settlement of Mantapuli, the chief of the place in Daraptra, was very much grieved. He called he called his warrior brother Sulaiman and requested the latter to proceed to Mindanao and save the people from the monsters. Adventurous at heart, Sulaiman immediately consented to go to Mindanao. While he was preparing, Indaraptra gave him a ring and a kris. Then taking a young sapling, Indaraptra planted it beneath the window of their house. He said to Sulaiman, "If this tree lives, you live. If it dies, you die. Also by this tree I shall know when you are in trouble." Riding on the crest of the mountain range, Sulaiman reached Kabalalan. He found the land completely in ruins. Not a human being was seen anywhere. A little while, Sulaiman felt the mountain shaking beneath him. Korita appeared and attacked the young warrior. Sulaiman drew his kris and fought back. The struggle was long and bloody. In the end, Sulaiman was able to conquer Kurita. From Kabalalan to Matapuli, Hero proceeded to Matatum where he encountered Tarabusa. The monster warned Sulaiman not to attack or he would be devoured. However, the brave warrior answered that he came on purpose to fight the monster. Alright, let's continue. Tarabusa broke big branches of trees and assailed Sulaiman. The young warrior parried the blows and returned the attack. At last, Tarabusa became exhausted. Seeing this, Sulaiman gave the monsters a heavy blow with his sword. The blade found its way through Tarabusa's armpit. The monster gave a horrible cry and fell. As it lay dying, it looked up to Sulaiman and congratulated the youthful hero. The latter, however, answered, "Your evil deeds are responsible for your death, and not my skill in combat." Sulaiman continued his journey in Mount Bita. He saw far greater devastation than that in Calalaban and Matutum. Not a human being remained. All of them were either devoured by the man-eating monster or had fled for safety somewhere else. He looked around. Suddenly the world became dark. He looked up and he saw a huge bird descending upon him. He knew he was in danger. He took his sword and struck the attacking creature. The bird fell and dead, but its huge wings fell on Suleiman. This killed the Mantipoli hero. Back in Mantipoli, Indaraptra kept watching the plant, and when he beheld the dropping leaves of the growing tree, he knew that something had happened to his brother. With heavy heart, Indaraptra prepared to go after Suleiman. He took his sword and magic belt, riding on the back of the wind. He headed for Kabalalan. However, he saw only the bones of Korita. He knew his brother had conquered the monster and had proceeded to other places. Indaraptra's next stop was in Matutum. He found in this place the bones of Tarabusao. So he continued his way. In Bita, he saw a dead bird. He was about to leave the place when he saw the severed wing of the bird at a distance. He went near and turned it upside down. He saw the bones of a dead man. He recognized the remains as those of Sulaiman because of the sword lying near the disintegrating leaves. Indraptra cried with a grief. He looked for the vines with which he could tie together the bones of his brother because he decided to bring this back to Mansapuli. However, he saw a jar of water not far from him. He knew that the jar came from the sky, so he reached for it and poured its content over the scattered bones of Sulaiman. Sulaiman stood up, rubbed his eyes as though he had just awakened from the long sleep. They embraced each other in joy. Sulaiman went home to Mantapuli while Indarapta proceeded to Mount Gurayu. There he met a dreadful bird that had 7 heads. He conquered this monster with the use of his sword Jurupakal. Having vanquished the monsters, Indrapta looked for the inhabitants of the place. He was about to give up after several days of futile search when he saw a beautiful maiden near a spring. He walked toward her, but the maiden suddenly disappeared. Disappointed, Indrapta sat down on a big stone. Looking around, he saw at a distance a pot of uncooked rice and a big fire. Hard pressed by hunger, he went near the fire. He sat over the fire and placed the pot on his knees to cook the rice. As he was thus cooking, he heard persons talking. One was laughing, while the other was speaking in a hushed voice. What a powerful man this stranger must be! Look at him, cooking on his knees. When the raptor looked back, he saw an old woman staring at him. From this woman, Indrapta learned about Suleiman's encounters with the monsters and how the people went into hiding. After a while, the old woman led Indrapta to a cave where the people had gathered. There, the young man saw the beautiful girl he met near the spring, but who disappeared before he could talk to her. Indrapta related to his adventures and that of his brother. He told the people to go back to their homes because the monster will all vanish. The people rejoiced to hear the news. They all went out and returned to their farms. The chief gave his daughter to Indaraptra in marriage. So that was all for summary. Thank you.